Hello, good people. I'm doing my intro now, multiple days later after I actually filmed my video because when I did my intro initially, I think I was in the aftermath of my video, and now that I am almost done editing, as I was editing it, I was like, oh wow, this is a woman who was slowly descending into madness. But pretty much. I saw, like many people around the world, saw Timothée Chalamet's comments on ballet and opera. And as a artist, a theater nerd, a filmmaker, all of that myself, I did not agree with his comments. And there's lots of other people who could explain how they felt and why what he said was low-key disrespectful better than I can. So I'm not going to get into it, but ultimately the thing that really set me off was how people kept saying, that's his opinion. That's his opinion. That's his opinion. And you know what? Every single time someone says something that is just, wrong, people keep saying that's his opinion. So I thought in this video, we would talk about the difference between opinion, information, and misinformation. Because I feel like we've all forgotten what's the difference between opinion and fact, and then I guess now opinion, misinformation, and disinformation. So I hope this video makes you laugh because I really was looking at it like, yo, girl, I think you need a nap. I think you need a nap. But anyway, we're gonna watch the video and then we're gonna go to Pass Me as I explain the three differences. Enjoy.
Gen Z is a bigger movie going audience than the millennial audience, I feel like a fucking grandpa saying that. And, no, but point being, I think even like Frankenstein, which was like a hugely popular movie this year, I didn't think that pacing was extraordinarily fast or anything, but it pulled people in, But it does take you having to wave a flag of, hey, this is a serious movie or something. And some people want to be entertained and quickly. I'm really right in the middle, Matthew, because I admire people, and I've done it myself, to go on a talk show and go, hey, we got to keep movie theaters alive. We got to keep this genre alive. And another part of me feels like if people want to see it, like Barbie, like Oppenheimer, they're going to go see it and go out of their way to be loud and proud about it. And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore. All respect to the ballet and opera people out there. I just lost 14 cents in viewership. But, damn, I just took shots for no reason.
That's not a shot. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. So.
All right, so we're going to address three different things. We're going to address what misinformation is, disinformation, and opinion. Because, my dears, I know that I seem to be making this bigger than it actually needs to be, but please, just humble me. Because I want for you guys to go out into the world knowing the difference between these three. Because some people think that this equates to this, and God forbid, equates to this. It's not the same. This is not misinformation. Is not the same as an opinion. And disinformation definitely isn't the same as this. So we're going to just talk about different scenarios and how these three show up in your lives. But I want you guys to know the difference, because when you go out into the real world, you are going to be faced with all of these. Or even when you're at school, you will be faced with these different things. So let's start out with misinformation. So the definition of misinformation is so let me break it down to you in a story. Lena and Beverly, they're in the bathroom and they're talking to each other and they're just washing their hands and about to go off to lunch. But then they hear crying from the stall. They hear a girl crying and they recognize her voice. It's their classmate, Annie. Well, Annie is crying to her mom on the phone and she's like, Mom, he's so mad at me. I don't think he's ever going to talk to me again. No, Mom. I think he needs it.
No, I don't want him to hate me, Mom. No, you say it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be okay. Well, meanwhile, the girls are like, oh my gosh, what is going on in there? So they go to the they leave the bathroom, and then they go to the table with their friends, and they're like, y'all, Annie is crying in the bathroom right now. And then one of their other friends is like, oh, dude, I saw her arguing with her boyfriend this morning. I think it looks like they're going to break up. Well, gossip does what it does, and it spreads around. People in the gym are talking about, like, oh, I hear that Beverly is, no, not Beverly. I heard that Annie is arguing with her boyfriend, Trevor. Yeah, she and Trevor, I did see them arguing myself this morning. What do you think, they're breaking up? No, well, they're completely different people. Trevor's kind of a meathead, and then, Annie's really smart. So I don't know if they're still going to remain together. And then all of a sudden, the whole school believes that they're breaking up, when in fact, the truth of the matter is Annie broke her little brother's soccer trophy the night before. It was his MVP trophy, and it was an accident. And her brother has been icing her out for hours. And he told her, I hate you. That was the last words he said before he stopped talking to her. And she feels awful. And it's tough for her because her little brother used to idolize her. He's 8 years old, and Annie is 15. And she loves her little brother more than anything. But he hasn't spoken to her since, and she's worried that he's not going to forgive her. Like that little boy is her heart. So the people, they're talking about it, and they're making speculations, and they're gathering information from what they've seen. And all of a sudden, a rumor has spread, and they think it's correct, while in fact, she's worried about her brother. And the conversation that looked a little heated that morning between Trevor and Annie was Trevor was trying to calm down Annie because she thinks, hey, my brother is not going to talk to me ever again. And then Trevor's like, no, he is. He's 8. He feels things deeply. Like, give him time. And she's upset that he doesn't see the seriousness of it, but he's trying to support her, and it just looked a little heated, and people on the outside didn't know what the conversation was. So that is how misinformation shows up in the world. It's not like the girls were out there trying to spread the rumor, but people were collecting like the limited information they had, and they came to a conclusion, which is misinformation. So misinformation can show up in different ways. So, for example, when a certain illness that spread around the world in the panorama, yeah, that when that was happening, when people thought that taking a shot of bleach was enough to heal your insides, or chugging aloe vera juice was enough to cleanse your insides, so they didn't need to go around outside with a certain face covering. Yeah, that is misinformation. That's how it shows up in your life. So, for example, someone overhears something, kind of like the story. You overhear something and you only hear parts of it, and then you come to your own conclusion, and then you spread that information around. Misinformation. So, what Monsieur Chalamet, whatever he said, what he said about ballet and opera, that can be misinformation if he had a limited view of it coming from his mother or his sister or his grandmother. I'm not putting the blame on those women, because they didn't do anything. They really didn't do anything. But say they were having a rough day, and something happened, and then they're like, I feel like people just don't care anymore. Da 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 da. And then he locked that in. He's like, nobody cares about ballet. That's misinformation, because as a person who loves ballet, that's not true. I was looking up tickets for Midsummer's Night's Dream, and that's coming near my small hometown. It's almost sold out. People still care about ballet. It's a timeless art. So much so that little girls, even little boys around the nation, are still getting fitted for their ballet shoes. Not every kid around the nation is getting a film education, but there's a lot of kids who are getting ballet. It's a timeless art. So that indeed was its misinformation. I am not here to defend Chalamet. I'm just breaking it down to where we can feel the differences, because this whole conversation is making me very, very frustrated. I'm going to give you one personal thing about your teacher. Sometimes I get really frustrated over things that seem minute to most of humanity. And the fact that people don't know the difference between these three things, it really grinds my gears. So, yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that you go out in the world knowing the difference between these things. So, whenever you are approached with some information, you should remember first, that you should always go to the source to confirm. So whether it's news articles, unbiased news articles, or to the person, imagine if Beverly knocked on the door of the bathroom stall and was like, "Hey, Annie, we see that you're upset. Are you okay?" And then Annie was like, "My brother's mad at me because I broke it." See, this wouldn't have been an issue. So whenever you are confronted with information, always be willing to question it, whether it's coming from, a friend telling you gossip, whether it's coming from, news, the news. Yeah, always look into it, read deeper into it. Or if someone's just giving you a random fact, like if you've never heard that truth, then, feel free to research it for yourself. Yeah. And also be very, very careful about where you're researching it. My loves, my dears, my dearest hearts, read a book. Read a book. TikTok may have good information because there are people who go online and share their knowledge, but anyone can give out information now, and a lot of it is this. So please, my dear, read a book, read an article. If you're going to read an article, go first for the orgs, the edus, the .nets. I'm not going to say that all .coms are wrong, but anybody can make a .com. So you should always test what information you have. There are .coms out there that are reputable sources, but you have to make sure that it is. I know I sound like your English teacher, but I just don't want you to get wrapped up like a lot of people out there who believe. You know what? We'll talk more about that whenever we get down here. Okay. So next we have disinformation. And here's the definition. So disinformation. Disinformation is with malintent. So it's like, hey, I want to make sure that because of this information, I'm able to get something out of it. You're trying to target a person, or you're trying to manipulate someone, or you're trying to get something out of this information, like people believing this information. So, for example, let's go back to the bathroom. Lena and Beverly are in the bathroom and they hear Annie crying on the phone. Well, Beverly is like, I'm going to go find her friend Joanne. Annie, leaving Lena and Annie in the bathroom. While Annie is on the phone, instead of just saying very limited things, she says, he says, my little brother hates me. Meanwhile, Lena hears, my little brother hates me. She says, and he's so mad at me, I don't think he's ever gonna forgive me. Okay, well, Beverly comes back with Joanne. Joanne goes in the bathroom and checks on her. Well, whenever they leave the bathroom and they go to the table, Lena decides that she is going to tell some limited information. She's going to pick some things out because she likes Trevor. And she doesn't think that Trevor and Annie belong with each other. So she's going to use this information to her own benefit. So she's going to be like, guys, Annie was crying and Beverly, when you left, I heard her saying, he's going to be so mad at me. What do you think she did? What do you think she's talking about? And then someone is like, do you think she's talking about Trevor? I don't know. I saw them arguing this morning. I saw that too. Oh my gosh. I don't know what do you think she... Back to the story. So Lena's like, I don't know. I mean, they have been looking a little, off lately as a couple. She doesn't mean that, but she's just planting seeds, which makes other people start to question their relationship, which goes on to make people speculate. And all of a sudden, this information starts spreading around to the locker room, starts spreading around to the classrooms. And then before you know it, the information gets back to Trevor that, she was crying in a bathroom about someone being mad at them. And he knows in his mind, like, oh, well, I know she's probably crying about her brother, but the rumor mill has already moved to where, what if his friends start asking him, like, her brother, but I don't know. She could be crying about her brother, but I did see her hanging out in the gym with, Oliver. Yeah, they seemed a little cozy, but what people don't understand is that Oliver is her lab partner. So, of course, they were in the gym talking about their upcoming lab assignment for their project. But, you start hearing little things that makes them start questioning, like, but could she be cheating on me? And then before you know it, the relationship starts getting a little rocky and they break up. And you know who's there to comfort him? Lena. I know that might seem like a little overkill, but there are some awful people out there. There are some people who use the rumor mill to their own benefit in high school and beyond. So, how do I know? Because I used to sit by people in class who were like that. I used to work for someone who was like that. And unfortunately, people use this for their own benefit. So, those times wherever you're talking to someone and someone tells you the bad information, like, they are saying that you looked really bad in that outfit yesterday. And you're like, what? I looked bad? You didn't hear it from me. Or they say you're actually kind of annoying, or everybody thinks that you are this, that, and the other. And, they're speaking in generalizations when it's actually just one person, or maybe two people who said that, them and then somebody else who said, everybody thinks you're kind of a bit much, And then all of a sudden you're thinking that it's like 50 people who think that you're a bit much or that your outfit was awful. And, that person could very well be telling you that because they're jealous of your outfit. I really like that outfit, so I'm going to make you feel bad for wearing that outfit. Because I noticed that, you got to have a lot of attention from the guys, one of which I really like and that bothers me. So you can't wear that outfit anymore. So people are going to say, so they're going to come up to you and be like, hey, I don't like that outfit on you. Disinformation. Nobody said that that outfit was a bit much. It was them, or maybe them. I mean, that one person and somebody else. Disinformation. That can be found you know, in personal interactions that could be found in job interactions. One of my old bosses, one time he said to me that they didn't want me to hire you. And all I could say is, who is they? Who is they? Who is this they? Well, I didn't say that to him. I was young and I should have said, like, well, can you tell me specifically? But he said, they didn't want me to hire you. They wanted me to fire you. And guess what? A lot of this they just had me questioning who that was. Luckily, my father, who was on the board, was able to tell me no one said that. That is a lie. Disinformation. He wanted me not to trust the board. Disinformation. So my dears, so when someone comes to you with information, like I said in misinformation, always be willing to look deeper into it, whether it's asking the right questions, researching it, reading a book. My dears, I love you so dearly. Please read. Please read. I know it's so much fun to watch things on your phone and scroll. I can scroll with the best in them. But you gotta read something.
Take a look in a book. Take a look.
Oh, and then also, it can be found in politics. How many times have you watched TV and then you've seen all these smear campaigns saying that this public figure hates children, this public figure is a thief who's stolen millions of dollars, and so on and so forth. Like those are just examples I pulled out of nowhere, but like, this candidate has done this. Be willing to research it, because sometimes whenever that's up there, they're projecting. The things that they are pointing the fingers at other people for doing, they have done themselves. Shh. So yeah, I don't want you to be misled or to be manipulated. Oh, and the reason I'm writing in cursive is because we need to bring back cursive. I know you guys aren't learning cursive in school, but you have to. They have all of these legal documents from the beginning of countries. I'm not going to only say our countries. I'm just saying there are people who've been writing in cursive, well, at least in English, for a very long time. You need to understand cursive so you can read it. No one can tell you what the information is if you can read it for yourself. I read the Declaration of Independence when I went there on for a school trip. We went to DC on a school trip, and I was able to read the Declaration of Independence because they taught us how to read script or cursive. Please, you guys, listen to me when I say learn it. I know this is an extra assignment, my dears, but you have to learn how to read cursive. They took it out of the schools. You have to read it. You have to understand how to read it. All right? I'm gonna look up some videos and I'm gonna put them under on how to read cursive and how to write cursive. It's really not that hard, I promise you. So please, learn cursive. Okay, so next, we're gonna go to opinion. And I really want to talk about opinion because
this be nice. I'm finding it. It take you that long to find it? It does.
We have lost the plot whenever it comes to opinion. Because opinion, we make everything seem like an opinion. We make misinformation seem like an opinion. We make disinformation seem like an opinion. We make opinion, when only opinion is opinion. So, for example, the reason why I need to do this whole video, I talked about it earlier, but we need to bring it back. Chalamet said that nobody cares about opera and ballet. And a lot of people have been saying that's just his opinion. And it's like, but it's not true.
We aren't affecting the community. The community is affecting us.
I'm not infected. I have papers to prove I'm not infected.
You said nobody cares. Nobody means no one. And there are very big communities around the world who love these art forms. So just because you don't care doesn't mean that nobody cares. And let me do a quick sidebar before we get back to this. I think it's possible. Like, I'm not defending him. I'm really not. I don't get anything from defending him. But what I'm saying, it's possible that what he meant was it's not as mainstream as movies. It's not as mainstream as movies. Not everybody's going to be seen as, that is like an everyday thing. But just because the entire world doesn't see it doesn't make it any less important. Some of you guys who are watching this video may come from my in-person classes. And me working with you guys, it's not seen by the masses. Doesn't make it any less important. It's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to start this channel is because I can give you guys things whenever we're not in the classroom. But whatever you do in life, whether it is you go on to be an artist in your own right, or you go on to be a teacher, or you go on to be a doctor, or a manager of a brick and mortar store, just because it may not be seen by the whole entire world doesn't make it any less important. So what he said was wrong. Misinformation at best, disinformation at worst. So we're going to circle back to disinformation real quick because it's possible. And again, this is pure speculation, so I'm not in his mind. I do not know him. But it's possible that, how somebody says something to kind of like put someone down to make themselves look better? That could very well be what's happening. Where it's just like, movies are so important. Out of all the art forms, it is the most unique. It is the most inspired. It takes the most work. It takes the most training. It's the most timeless.
I don't make mistakes. I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
To kind of make yourself seem like the better artist. I don't know what his personal life is like, but his grandmother, mother, and sister all were classically trained dancers. Does he feel like the oddball trying to prove himself like, well, I am this. I know my sisters are this. I mean, I know the women in my family are this, but I am this. I'm so much better than you. I'm a 10-year-old too. I'm not saying he's like that because personally, again, I don't know the guy, but it's very possible that there are people out there who try to make what they do so much better. So for example, oh, you guys may be lawyers and doctors, but I am a stay-home mom and I actually care about my children's education. I mean, what you do, it's good and all, but what can be more selfless than that? Oop, almost knocked over my cup. But, we see that online, like, oh, you guys may be happy being single, but at the end of the day, I'm loved by somebody. That blanket isn't going to keep you warm at night. Disinformation, passing around like this, just my life is a little more full than yours. When it's just, your life can be full, whatever you do. Like I said, no matter what you do, it may not be on the grand stage, but it doesn't make it any less important. So, I think what he said was either one of these two things because it was wrong. It just wasn't true. An opinion, when it's stated as a statement of fact, that's when it stops being an opinion and it becomes one of these. Let's get into opinion so I can better explain that. Okay, opinion is what you think. It's what you believe when it comes to something that is subjective. Fact is whenever it's objective, it can be backed up by proof, it can be backed up by facts, it can be backed up by science, it can be backed up by statistics, all of those things. That is a fact. But opinion is not one of these. And the reason I keep going back to this is because we treat everything like when you're wrong, well, that's just his opinion. No, bro, you're wrong. It has nothing to do with the opinion. I mean, your opinion, sir, it's not an opinion. You're wrong. So let me get into this. Hey, I don't care for pizza. Not me. I love pizza. But I have a friend who doesn't really care for pizza. Does that mean pizza is bad? No, she just doesn't care for pizza. I'm going to out myself. I'm not really a fan of the movie John Wick. Does that make the movie bad? No. But if I were to say John Wick is a bad movie and anybody who likes it is illiterate or into, into pretentious slop or whatever. No, I just didn't connect with it. And the reason I said those words is because I didn't get in an argument because I refuse to argue with people on the internet. I'll give you one response. I will say something, you will say something, you get one response. If you get weird about it, I'm just going to say K. And that's what I said at the end. So this one person, I said, Sinners was a well thought out movie. You guys watch Sinners when you're older, not now. But a well thought out movie with its cinematography, its acting, its casting, its writing. It was well thought out. And I think it's deserving of an Oscar. But don't get me started on subjective fields getting awards, because that'll be another video. But when it comes to being consistent in different departments, I think it is consistently good across, all departments. It's well thought out, and it was a beautiful story, and it was, it was well done and well thought out. Well, then someone was just like, I think it's overhyped. I think that the people who like it don't even really like it. You know what? I'm just going to find the comment and put it right here. Pause to read. Well, I ended up responding because it seemed like a really responsive thing. And here's the thing. I'm not going to argue with people on the internet. I'm just like, do you feel better now that you've said this? Do you feel better now that you have dunked on a movie that everybody has liked? Do you feel better now that you feel superior for not liking a movie that many people have liked? Like, do you feel better? Like, it wasn't even in a bad way. Like, because the way that this person responded was giving, I don't like it, therefore the rest of you are idiots. And I'm like, only a person who feels some type of way about themselves gets angry that other people like the movie. And I knew it was something deeper, so I was like, do you feel better? They could have very well taken my words in a cutting way because, text to whatever, like reading somebody's text messages or whatever. That's why when you have to have a hard conversation, you got to call somebody. But I guess they saw it in a cutting way. And this person said, I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? Nah. Because the fact that you are invested Okay, if you didn't like Sinners, if you didn't connect with Sinners, then fine. That's fine. Again, I don't connect with John Wick, but I don't like my coworkers used to work at a martial arts studio, so, you know, every so often everybody would go to see an action film. Well, they went up to me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go?" Just gotta check this real quick. All right, still doing good with the time. Well, anyway, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I was like, "Nah, no thanks, but you guys have fun." Did I go and say, like, "John Wick is an awful movie. You guys are idiots for liking it. This guy shouldn't have been trying to avenge his dog. He should be going to therapy." That would I don't connect with it, but it brought people joy. It made people feel seen. It made people excited. And it had Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is a gem. So, like, people get weird when it comes to their opinions. But then there are people who spread disinformation or misinformation, and when they're called out on how either of these things are wrong, people want to go,
"That's my opinion! Don't you get it? Why can't anybody have an opinion but you?"
At the end of the day, good people, your opinion is not law. Wait, let me put it in big words. Your opinion is not law. But we treat our opinion like it's law, and then we treat this one and this one like it's law. So I think insert demographic here is less human than insert demographic here.
I'm not even gonna think about you know who and the you know what doing I don't care.
That is disinformation. That is not an opinion. You don't get to have an opinion on other people's existence. So, another thing, that is disinformation. Not disinformation. Let's go. Let's just examples. If someone were to say, "We need carbon dioxide to breathe," like we breathe in carbon dioxide to live. And people are like, "No, you don't. You breathe in oxygen." And then people are screaming, "That's their opinion, but their opinion is wrong." It's misinformation because they were taught wrong. The sky is purple. No, it's not. It's blue. Well, that's their opinion. It's not, because it's wrong. You don't get to you can't say something wrong and say, "It's my opinion." No, sir, you were wrong. There's a difference between fact and opinion. Fact and opinion.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Okay, let's do humans have to eat to gain nutrients. That is mostly a fact. Yes. There are people who are fed by feeding tubes. There are people who are in comas, so they're fed intravenously or so on and so forth. But for the most part, humans eat to get nutrients. Okay, cool. So if someone were to say all humans are fed via feeding tube, that would be, depends on the intent. So if they are meeting aliens and they're saying this, and they were raised surrounded by people who have been fed their entire lives by feeding tube to where they don't eat, through their mouths. They don't consume food. That would be misinformation, because they've never met anybody who has eaten food, but they think that only humans are fed by feeding tube. Okay. Now, if they have feeding tubes, but they're like, we don't want the aliens to know about this, so we can get the jump on them, because they think that if they stop production of feeding tubes, that they will wipe out the human race or whatever. That is disinformation. To where where they're trying to manipulate the aliens into thinking that it's a different type of way. So, now we go into opinion. If the aliens were like, no, we know that not to be true, we have actually seen live footage of humans consuming food, if someone with them would be like, that's their opinion based on how they were raised, it would still be wrong. It wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be an opinion. So let's list out things that can be opinions. I think Taylor Swift is the greatest artist of all time. I didn't say that because I have thoughts on who my favorite artist is. Because again, I think that art is subjective, so I can't say they're the greatest of all time, but I think that there are some that are a little more influential. But there are people who go out there, state that as fact, and when people are like, no, I wouldn't say that, they're like, you just are a sexist who don't want her to be great. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, first of all, you're not going to speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
That's not what we said. So again, opinion. Another opinion. I think that sushi is a great food. If I were to say sushi is the best food to ever be created, someone could be like, I don't think so because I'm allergic to fish. I've never had it before, so I can't even say that because I'm allergic to fish. Or I've had sushi and I've had better foods. It's not a fact. It's an opinion. So one of the best things that I learned at a leadership conference that I went to recently is that whenever we're saying things, we should speak in I statements. Timothée should have said, Monsieur Chalamet should have said, I think that many people don't care about opera anymore. That would be his opinion. That would be his opinion because that's what he thinks from what he's gotten. But he said no one cares about this anymore. He stated it as a fact. Therefore, it is one of these. So, you guys see what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion anymore. I'm not saying that you have to like every film that you have or that you even have to like ballet or opera. No. But what I'm saying with this is it's not an opinion whenever you state it as a fact and the fact is wrong. It's one of these. It's one of these. So for all of you who are out there who are just like, oh, you're making it bigger than it needs to be. It's just an opinion. It's not an opinion. An opinion has to do with how you feel about something. There's nothing wrong with how you feel about something. If it's subjective, if it's objective, you don't care about how it feels. I don't know. I don't care if you feel like winter is not cold because you run hot. It doesn't matter how you feel. It's not, you can't go out there and say winter isn't that cold because it is. The earth, this part of the earth is tilting from the sun. So for example, I have one more thing. I have a friend, a really good friend. She was raised in I'm not going to tell you where she's from, but she is from a nation that is very, 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 very cold. So we met when we were both living up north in a state that is also very cold. To me, as a person who was raised in the deep south, where winters, they can get cold, but not that type of north cold. But she's used to being in a place that is colder than where we were living. So, if she were to say, it's not that cold outside, if she were to say that to me and I were to walk outside, and I were to walk outside with a jacket and she were to look at me and be like, why are you wearing that jacket? It's not that cold outside. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Just because it's not cold to you doesn't mean that it's not cold. So she's never said that, but she says, I was raised here, so, it's not that cold to me. It's not that cold, but she knows that it's cold. It's objectively cold. It is cold because the temperature was below freezing, and freezing is a word that means this. And then she was like, oh, it's not that bad to me because I was raised here. That is her opinion, that it doesn't affect her. Like, it's not that cold to me, but she's not going to objectively say it's not that cold as if it was law. So, because again, your opinion is not law. So, my dears, we're going to do a rapid fire round. Oh, actually, we need to go back to the bathroom one more time. Lena likes Trevor. Trevor is dating Annie. Lena thinks that Annie and Trevor aren't good for one another. They aren't good for one another. She goes up to Annie and be like, I don't know why you two are dating. I feel like you guys don't really mesh. So Annie could take that information and take it to heart as it's a fact. Like, oh, we don't mesh. Maybe we aren't meant to be together, because she's taking it as a fact. No. She doesn't say, I think. She doesn't say, I think. It's like, you guys just don't mesh. And if she takes that as fact, not an opinion, she's like, oh, we don't mesh. We're completely different people. Maybe we aren't meant to be together. Because, she says that, then maybe other people can think that. When in fact, Trevor likes Annie because she balances him out. He might be a little more outgoing and she's a little quieter. He doesn't feel like he has to perform when he's around her. They can just be. I'm giving you guys like the bare bones of something, but what I want for you to understand is that someone's opinion does not dictate everything. So for example, anyone who likes this show is illiterate. I hear a lot about that. Are we in a literacy crisis in this nation? No. Around the world? Yes, we are. But does everyone who likes this book or this TV show, does that make them illiterate? No. No, that's not the case. So, the reason why I'm talking about this with you guys is that what Timothée said, Monsieur Chalamet said, because I'm not going to use his first name because I don't know him, but whatever Chalamet said was not an opinion because he stated it as fact. What it would have made an opinion is, I don't think people really care about it anymore, or it's not as mainstream as it used to be, which, could very well be true. Not everybody knows what's going on with the ballet and opera. That's fine. Not everyone knows what's going on. Not everybody knows who's the new prima ballerina of insert this. You could say it may not be as popular. Yeah. And that's the thing. That statement alone could have been misinformation. But what I'm saying is, he could say, I don't really see people talking about ballet that much. He could have said that. Or, I don't even know what the state of ballet is as compared to movies or whatever. It could have been a statement. It could have been an I statement. So whenever you're saying something and you're not familiar with it, make sure to speak in I statements. But also be wary when people state things as fact. You have to be willing to look at the information. It doesn't matter how confident the person seems. You have to look in the information, because when someone says it as this, states it as opinion, this will never be this. This will never be this. This will never be this. Because the worst the person can be is ill-informed. The worst The best somebody can be is ill-informed. The worst is that they are trying to manipulate you. So, my dears, Timothée Chalamet, what he said wasn't an opinion. It was one of these. Because there are people around the world who still love and revere this art form. So when he said, no one cares, it is not an opinion, it is this. It would have been better if he said, I don't really know the state of it because, it's not, I don't really know the state of ballet or the state of opera in comparison to what is happening in the state of films, because that's a little more mainstream. And I don't want film to go in that direction to where it's such a niche topic. He could have said that. And then people would have been like, you know what, fair enough. Fair enough. You don't want film to be, but you keep saying that I don't want it to be like ballet and opera. There are people who care about ballet and opera. You not caring about it is your opinion. If he said, I don't really care about ballet and opera. I don't really care for ballet and opera. Ballet and opera is not important to me. That would have been an opinion. So what he said is that nobody cares about ballet and opera. It's not an opinion. I'm sorry. I'm actually getting kind of warm under this light, so maybe that's just my sign to sign off. But guys, when I leave you, I need for you to become investigators in your life. And it's not that hard, I promise you. So if someone says something to you about this public figure is this, do your own research. Do not rely on word of mouth from other people, because guess what? This might be in play. I don't want for you to be tricked by individuals who mean you harm, because there's a lot of people out there who will try to manipulate you for their own personal gains. So it's like, hey, a lot of the guys around here don't like you, but I see something special in you. Disinformation, they're trying to isolate you. No, I heard that, eating 1,200 calories a day as a man who's 6'11", that's enough to give you ripple data. That's misinformation. There's a lot of that going around on TikTok where it's just like, I only eat 1,200 calories a day. You are messing up Wait. You eat 1,200 calories a day, and then you run a mile and lift weights on top of that. Buddy, you are close to burning 500 calories. You are consuming your body is basically running on 700 calories a day. You are jacking up your metabolism. You always got to be willing to see if it's this or this, because if you think that everything is this, then you're going to let these things slide. You can't let these things slide, because this, at worst, will guide you in the wrong direction until you find out the truth. But this could ruin state of affairs for multiple people in the world. So when I tell you, when someone says something wrong, do not chalk it up to this. Because opinions are subjective and facts are objective. So if someone says, hey, you should drink bleach to cleanse you of all issues, no, that is this. It is not an opinion, because opinion is something that is subjective, and you cannot have something that is subjective when it comes to fact. So if someone says, I like cats over dogs, hey, opinion. Cats are the worst type of animal and they should exist. That is not this. And if you get rid of cats, you are throwing off the food chain. I think I really need to go. My students, you're probably going to see me like really passionate about this because, like I said earlier in the video, I do not like when people try to justify nonsense and chalk it up to an opinion, because at the end of the day, your opinion is wrong, and it's not an opinion, it's this. So please, my dears, read a book, research things, be very critical of the research that you look up, because at this point in time, anybody can say anything. Anybody could say anything. I could very well make up a rumor that people are supposed to be born with 3 arms, but there's a new mutation. That's the reason why we only have 2. And like, we could write a whole article about it. That is pure nonsense. And then people are going to be worried about the fact that they don't have a 3rd arm after a fact. I mean, after a while. Guys, read a book. I mean this. I really mean that. Like, if someone says something outlandish to you, research it for yourself. Research it. And I know we have school, and I know we have jobs, and I know we have all of this stuff, but just for the sake of you have to be willing to read from a reputable source. So if someone says you should drink bleach to get rid of all the illnesses, and then a doctor who went to school, if multiple doctors who went to school said, do not drink bleach, trust the people who studied this. And I know I'm not trying to get like into that elite place, like people where people who went to school are smarter than da-da-da-da-da. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they are more informed and they are less likely to fall into this. They can fall into this if they are given the right, yeah, but there are people, but they are less likely to fall into this if they trained for it. So my dears, just do research and then look for reputable sources, because whenever I was your age and I was younger and I had to read, there would be like, oh, well, whenever you're researching things, you can research from these type of websites, and it has to be this. I don't know if they still have you guys look up scholarly journals and whatnot. Like, those are people who make their lives work studying things. So please, believe in the experts. Not everybody studied this, so the guys, read a book. Don't fall into this. You guys have a good day.